Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings, to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.
Okay, thank you, Nick. All right, we'll go ahead and call to order this meeting. This is the June 7th, 2021 meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. Due to COVID-19 precautions and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, extended by Executive Order 2021-10, this commission is authorized to meet electronically. All votes will be by roll call fashion. And before we get started, as we've done with every virtual meeting, if each commissioner could just state for the record where they're at, why they're participating virtually, and who else is with them in the room, and whether or not they can hear the audio. I'll go first. I'm Steve Perkins. I'm participating virtually because this is a virtual meeting. I am alone in the office where I work, and I can hear the audio. Mike Boisvert.
Hi, Mike Boisvert. I'm participating virtually at home. I'm alone in this room right now, and I can hear the audio just fine.
Thank you, Mike. How about you, Gina?
I'm Gina Rosati. I'm participating electronically from home. Attendance in person is not reasonably practical due to COVID-19. I am alone in the room I am in, and I can hear the proceedings.
Excellent. Thanks, Gina. Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Glenn, participating electronically due to COVID. I am alone in this room, and I can hear everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike Druin.
I'm Mike Druin. I'm participating remotely due to COVID-19. I'm alone in the room, and I can hear everyone fine.
Fabulous. Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Tenhave. I am participating electronically due to precautions from COVID-19. I am alone in this room, and I can hear everyone just fine.
Thank you. And Tim, would you serve as a voting member in place of Gage?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mike Druin, would you sit in as a voting member in place of Eric?
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you both. Okay, I think we're ready to get started then. The first agenda item is public comment. I see a number of people with us tonight. Were any of you here for a public comment, or were you all to speak to an agenda item?
I can speak for Tom and Steve and Jeff. We're all here to speak to an agenda item.
Fantastic. And how about you, Dawn?
I'm here for the Woodbury Sidewalk project.
Okay. We did. Okay, yeah, the caller that ends in 088. Are you here for an agenda item or public comment?
Hi, this is the caller from 7088.
Yeah, go ahead. Would you just state your name and your address, and are you here for a public comment?
No, my name is Andrew Duane at 10 Dwyer Street. I'm on the Wildcat Falls subcommittee, and I'll be here representing.
Outstanding, fabulous. Thank you for joining us. Yep, we were expecting you. Okay, I'll move on then. Public hearings, we had none. Appointments, we also have none. So that brings us to the first formal agenda item, and that is statutory and advisory business. The first item we had to discuss tonight was the review for recommendation to the planning board of a site plan to construct a 100,000 or 100 and 700,000 square foot manufacturing building and construct a 66,000 square foot manufacturing addition to the existing 449,500 square feet of warehouse building. The parcels are located at 57 through 59 Daniel Webster Highway in the Route 1A Aquifer and Industrial Conservation Districts. Tax map is 2E lots 006 and 006-1. We all had, this was in our packet, so we all had several documents to review there, an aerial photo, project site plan, and so forth. So this time I'll turn it over to I'll turn it over to the group. I don't know which one of you wants to speak about this first. Maybe start by giving us a high-level overview.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Tom Hildreth, I'm local counsel to the owner and applicant here. With me tonight is Jeff Checkaway, who is a representative of the owner, and Steve Glowacki, who is the civil engineer for the project. Steve's going to do most of the presentation. I'm just going to do a very brief introduction, and I'm going to try sharing my screen. I just want to show you 2 slides to kind of get us oriented. This first one, and I think you mentioned you have this in your packet. Are you seeing the Google Earth image of the overview of the site with my little hand moving on it?
Yes, we can see that.
So this is, you can see the pin that Google provides for 57 Daniel Webster Highway. The owner owns both of these tax parcels, one behind the other. This is the building that we're talking about. This is the lot we're talking about tonight. This is a building that you can tell by the different colors of the roofs and even the parking lot that it's been amended and added to over time. My limited historical research suggests that in the late 60s and early 70s, this was the site of what became a very substantial Nashua Corporation facility in Merrimack. It's now a multi-tenanted site. Huntsman is one of the major tenants, but there are several others. We're on the eastern side of Daniel Webster Highway, kind of in the southern portion of the town. The YMCA is kind of over here. The other screen I wanted to share with you is just to kind of show you this one. I hope you can see now a page from the site plan. Is that what's appearing now? I hope. So this is the a clean version of the 35-page plan set. It really shows where we're talking about making changes. So this is the proposed 66,000 square foot addition to the southern end of the existing building. The building itself, I think, is completely tenanted today. And we have reason to believe that one of the tenants is going to want this additional space, which is why that's being proposed to be added there. And then the owner, while they're on the site doing that work, want to build this other 100,000 square foot facility at the northern end of the site, not for a particular tenant today, but because it's a good market for kind of flex warehouse / light manufacturing space. Aside from inability to get building materials at reasonable prices, it's a good time to be expanding that capacity. So those are the 2 plans that I want to show. Steve prepared and submitted a 300+ page stormwater management report that talks about how the changes that he's proposing are going to actually improve on existing conditions in terms of the way stormwater is managed on the site. And I understand that full set is now out with Fuss and O'Neill, who I guess is the town's reviewing engineers, and they're going to be reviewing the plan set as well. But in the meantime, for tonight's purposes, Steve's going to provide you an overview of kind of the drainage plan and how it makes improvements to what's existing. And we'll kind of want to be guided by you in terms of what level of detail you want him to take that to. So he's going to condense that 300+ page report into a 3-minute summary, and then ask what questions and direction you might like to go. So Steve, would you take it from there?
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. For the record, Steve Glowacki. I'm the civil engineer on the project with R.J. O'Connell and Associates. We're located at 80 Montvale Ave, Stoneham, Massachusetts. As Tom mentioned, the gist of what we submitted, of course, was the stormwater report and the accompanying plans. And I'd like to run through some of those items associated with that. As Tom mentioned, the project does consist of an addition of 66,000 square feet of building expansion, if you would, at the south end, along with 100,700 square feet of new building to the north. Along with that, we obviously have associated parking fields and expansions to those. The total number of parking on the site will be 544 spaces. So with the addition of that impervious area, which is a net increase of 348,723 square feet, we have developed quite a robust stormwater program to mitigate that. The main gist of that starts with collecting the stormwater from the roof. The stormwater from the roof of the proposed addition, the 66,000 square foot addition, will be directed to the subsurface infiltration to the south, labeled SIS2 on the plans. That stormwater will be infiltrated into the ground and into B-type soils, and any overflow will follow the general path that it does today. Stormwater runoff from the 100,700 square foot building to the north will be, the roof drainage associated with that will be directed to the subsurface infiltration SIS1, located along the back edge or the northern edge of the site. Now, runoff from the paved areas primarily around the brand new building, the standalone building, will be collected in catch basins with 4-foot sumps and hoods, of course, and the water will be channeled through hydrodynamic particle separators, and then will be discharged into either an infiltration basin standalone, or will be discharged into an existing pipe that runs through the site. So the name of the game here for us was, of course, treatment. We wanted to make sure we used the utmost care in treating the stormwater and infiltrate as much as we could into the prime soils that were available. We've designed this in accordance with the New Hampshire Stormwater Manual design criteria. And of course, we will be submitting for an alteration of terrain permit, given the size and scope of the project to be reviewed. As part of that, there are several factors that we had to meet, and that includes the implementation of a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which we've developed, the collection of stormwater through stormwater runoff through catch basins with deep sumps, as I mentioned, drainage manholes and hydrodynamic particle separators, as I've also mentioned, subsurface and also surface infiltration basins, and the implementation of a I&M plan as well. We've developed for the stormwater as well. Overall, we are reducing the peak runoffs quite a bit, as you'll note in the stormwater report. We have 3 different points of analysis through the site, and we are reducing the stormwater runoff significantly, especially in the 2-year storm, but also through the 10-year and 50-year storm. And you'll see the 3 points of analysis have been reduced significantly, the stormwater runoff for those sites. As Tom mentioned, I can get in as deep as you like, or open it up to questions. If you have some questions that you'd like to delve into, I can certainly do that.
And this has gone, when does this go back before the planning board?
This is scheduled to be before the planning board early July. We had a meeting that was scheduled that we had to continue because we were lacking the review comments from Fuss and O'Neill and some of the departments and so forth. I think July 6th, I believe, is the date. That's a Tuesday.
Okay. Who would like to start?
So Steve, I'd like to start just with a basic question for the other Steve. Can you tell us how this system that you're proposing for the new buildings complements or works with the existing stormwater in buildings?
Yes, so primarily it stands on its own, Tim. The system's been designed to capture stormwater and treat this as an additional square footage of impervious area. That said, we are utilizing a portion of the basin that exists, and we're expanding the basin that exists just outside the edge, just to the south of the existing soccer field out there. So that's at that point, that's where the stormwater laces together. And as I mentioned, we have an overflow that will tie into the existing drain that runs through the site. And we're of course staying outside of that with our construction, but we do tie into that.
Sorry, I was on mute. Where does the existing drain end? Does it end up in the river?
It does. So as I mentioned, there's an existing infiltration basin, and water from that overflows and ties into that existing drain that comes through the site and eventually ends up in the river, beyond the railroad tracks.
Steve, is there a regular maintenance schedule for the for those separator and the trap and the catch basin?
Yes, Mike. As part of the I&M report that we put together, there is a complete maintenance schedule that includes logs and the like, in order for the applicant to track that stormwater maintenance and include, excuse me, all the components of the stormwater system, including the subsurface systems, catch basins, pipes, etc. And that's part of the regular monitoring associated with the I&M.
I&M, what does that stand for?
Inspection and maintenance.
Thank you. Yeah.
My apologies.
Mike, you can find that plan toward the back of the stormwater management plan. It's attached as an appendix to that plan itself.
Thank you.
Did anyone go through the landscaping sheets?
I did. The one thing I didn't see mentioned there was just the use of native species. Was that in there somewhere? Maybe I just missed that.
I went through and I compared it to the invasive species and it was okay. The two things that I didn't see, am I breaking up here? I did see straw instead of hay, which is good. If it was in there, I apologize, and it probably was since this is an existing parking lot, but I didn't see any reference to the Green Snow Pro, de-icing professionals, and I didn't see anything regarding low phosphorus, slow release nitrogen fertilizers. So if that was in there, I apologize. I just must have missed it.
In terms of the existing snow management and snow melt, I'd ask Jeff Checkaway, the applicant, to chime in about their current practices. But as I understand, they do maintain those current practices with their snow removal company.
How about for the fertilizer? Do you know if that's the slow release?
I don't know offhand. I would defer to Jeff.
Okay, we can always put that in when we send the letter, just to ensure it's in there.
And Jeff, you're on. Can you speak to either of those?
Yeah, for the record, Jeff Checkaway with Calais Properties. We're the owner of the property under the entity 5759 Daniel Webster Highway, Merrimack LLC. So, you know, our programs with our landscapers, you know, we're open to using any type of products that, whether it's ice melt, snow melt, you know, the slow release nitrogen fertilizers. So if there's any particular list that can be incorporated, or, you know, typically when we deal with other towns as well, you know, whatever they want to be used, we're open to doing that. We don't really have any restriction, and, you know, we're willing to cooperate and do whatever we think makes the most sense or whatever we're asked of here.
Okay, we'll just make sure that it's in the letter. The preference is low phosphate, slow release nitrogen fertilizer, just especially since you're so close to the river. You want to try to avoid any algae blooms going on over there.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I believe that's been rolled into our subdivision regulations now as well. So you should be able to see all that in the latest updates. Either that or zoning. No, I think it's subdivision, not zoning. So.
Thank you.
Along with the desire for, utilizing a Green Snow Pro certified snow removal system or something similar to that. That's a certification that UNH does for snow handlers.
I wouldn't be surprised, and again, I don't want to speak for Jeff, but I wouldn't be surprised if the current snow removal company, is Green Snow Pro certified, but we'll ensure that's the case.
Yeah, even as we move forward, we'll work towards that. Prior to this winter coming, and we probably won't have moved ahead with all construction if we get approvals. But it's just for the site in general. We'll follow up with our snow removal contractor when we bid it out this season to make sure that they are certified to that program with UNH.
Fabulous. Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah. So in the buildings, are you planning, how are you handling any spills and things like that? Are there floor drains that go to a collection system or whatever?
Yeah, the plumbing system, I think, is being designed currently inside the building. As often is the case, the civil is much out in front, much ahead rather of the other disciplines in the building design. But the buildings will be designed with appropriate floor drains, and we'll go through the proper traps before they discharge into the sanitary system.
And then at this point, with the tenants that might be planned for these buildings, is there any sort of use that we would anticipate large amounts of chemical storage or anything like that?
I can speak to that. Right now, we're moving ahead speculative. We are designing the building currently with the building architect and engineer. So as we get through the process, we sort of leave those options open to design for specific uses. Once we get a tenant involved, and to be quite honest, we hope to have someone involved, prior to, looking for a completion or a building permit. That's usually the best case scenario for us. But, like Steve was saying, we'll design everything for interior of the building for, spill prevention and what needs to be done. But we don't currently have a tenant. We are sort of proceeding speculatively through this permitting process with hopes to land a tenant,
Okay. Anyone else? Questions? All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for speaking with us about this tonight. We'll make sure we get our recommendation back to the planning board here before the end of the week. We'll we'll mention those things that we talked about. Just call out the use of a Green Snow Pro certified and no phosphate fertilizers.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
All right. The next statutory advisory item we had was LMSNH LLC is the applicant, and Karen Roy, the owner, review for a recommendation to the planning board of a site plan to permit pesticide company to occupy the existing building. The parcel is located at 255 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax map is 3D-2, lot 039. And I see we have Matt on to talk to us about this. Matt, good evening. You want to start and give us an overview?
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name is Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates, here representing the site plan at 255 Daniel Webster Highway. The name of the company is Mosquito Squad. It's a change of use in front of the Conservation Commission tonight. This has changed drastically in the last 6 months. This is the site that I was in front of you guys 3 months ago to do Kodiak Vet Clinic. We got planning board approval, and based on the economy and costs of building construction, I guess, and sprinklers, and just I think the whole site itself was a lot, they backed out of it. So within 2 weeks, somebody else has put it under agreement. So we're here tonight to discuss this. This is an existing business that's in town right now. They're located over at 908 Columbia Circle. We'd like to utilize this existing about 0.5 acre site at the corner of Star Drive and DW Highway. The only difference from this applicant from the previous one is that this one is not proposing any additions to the building or squaring off the building. The building would be utilized pretty much as it is today. There are no retail drive up or drive in for this site here. It's kind of mainly a locker room and storage building for their use. They'll have their vehicles in these parking spaces, and the employees would come in the morning, pick up their vehicle and go out. And it's amazing how many of these signs I've now seen the last 3 weeks, and I had never known of this company until they came into my office 3 weeks ago. But they're all over the state right now, up and down from the Lakes region all the way down to the border there. So again, use the building mostly for the employees to come change. They have a call center down in Massachusetts that handles all their facilities coming in and coming out of the site. Just to kind of go through with this being a mosquito killing type of company, they will be having material stored on site. They typically will have 3 of these 30 to 60 gallon product, each of them being on a spill prevention system. They'll also have inside the building their kits, their spill prevention kits. These guys are permitted by the New Hampshire Division of Pesticides. They are subject to random and periodic inspections. They go through it at the beginning of the process. And like I said, they're in town currently. I am an engineer for a reason, because I am not very good at spelling things and sounding out English words. So these are the 3 types of use of chemicals that they have that they would be using. The EPA has done their reviews over. I've learned a lot today, but I can submit this stuff to you guys and stuff like that so you can review it. We're in front of the board for the first hearing next month. I assume there'll be 2 hearings, so not a crazy rush here. But this type of stuff's been studied since about, I think it was 1976 is what they'd gone back to in being used. There's been multiple different tests on dogs and mice and all that kind of stuff there. Typically, if you see these signs around, they'll come in, they'll spray. And when the material is wet, that's when it can be transferred kind of onto your shoe or your dog or something like that. So they typically recommend to any of their customers that they wait 20 minutes to let the product dry. Once it's dry, it's not transferable. An example, a day like today, it would take about 3 minutes, and it wouldn't be able to be, but they still tell the people about the 20 minutes. And then as far as drainage goes on this site here, we're removing the parking that was up in this front corner. Again, you probably remember beforehand, the current plan is right here. So currently this is paved up into the right of way. That's being removed, and just with that removal, there's a decrease in the drainage that's going to these 2 infiltration basins that we had before. We had put some notes to replace the frame and grates on that were there. That was the last application. But I haven't changed a lot except the name on the plans really from what we had beforehand, and a couple extra details and stuff like that to the planning board. So I can open up for questions and comments and go from there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. When does this go back to the planning board?
We're on for next Tuesday for the first one for application acceptance. As the last application you heard, Fuss and O'Neill's kind of, takes a little bit to get the comments back there. Not takes a while, but I mean, it's only been a couple weeks. So I assume we'll probably go to a second hearing in July, but maybe they would move it through next Tuesday. But next Tuesday is the first hearing.
Okay. I guess I had a couple of questions. I could start with the, you know, I did see on page 4, you called out Green Snow Pro certified snow removal. That was good to see. On page 5, note number 9 mentions low phosphate. Would much rather see that worded like page 6, note number 5, where it says no phosphate slow release.
No problem.
And I guess my only other question was that obviously there's some storage probably in the vehicles. I wouldn't imagine that all the chemicals come out of those every night if they're left in the parking lot. I don't know, maybe one of your slides shows us, but can you just talk to us about, you know, what containment in that parking lot? Would there be a leak or something in the parking lot?
Correct. So basically they don't mix anything on their trucks till they get to the site. So they have the waters on the trucks. They have individual containers that they'll have the 3 different types of product that they would have. They go in the building there. There's a mechanical pump there that pumps it into their containers and then brings them out to their vehicles there. The spill containment kit is for being moved off of site and stuff like that, back and forth from there. So that's the level of it. Pretty minor.
Okay. So, if, for instance, if a truck went out and it was mixed on site, the chemical was prepared, the storage, that chemical is in the truck, though, right? If something were to happen and that truck or tank didn't get emptied on the truck and it had to come back to the parking lot, where does the parking lot drain, I guess?
The parking lot just has 2 infiltration drains on it there. Those are located. Got one up in this location here and one in this location here. Again, these containers we're now talking 30 gallons a container. I'd have to supply the board the exact number. I tried to get all my questions that I thought you'd ask me before today, but I didn't. I don't have the size of the containers he has on the trucks. Again, I know it's 30 inside the building, so I'm assuming they're smaller, but I can get that information to the board.
Who else had questions?
Yeah, I mostly remembered the last time he was here with the plan, so it didn't seem like there was a lot changed. You asked the questions about the chemicals, which is the important part. So I don't have anything to add, Steve.
Anyone else?
I'll ask something. So one of our town councilors shared an article from some government source saying certain mosquito sprays contain PFAS. Do these varieties of insecticides contain PFAS?
I'm not a chemical engineer to tell you if it's its own name. These are the 3 chemicals that they use here. I have no idea on that. Sorry. I can take a look at that, but I would assume not with all that's been going on in the state, because these guys have to go through the state to get permitted. So I find that very unlikely, but I can get back to you on that, Mike.
Doesn't look like anyone else has questions. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate you joining us tonight. And we'll go ahead and send our recommendation off to the planning board. We'll make sure it gets there by next Tuesday in the event that you are able to get on the schedule.
And I'll send an email to Robert or one of them with these answers here on the size of containers and the chemicals for you there, Mike. All right, just to make sure. So you guys will have that tomorrow, the next day.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Okay, brings us to new business. The first item we had up here was Public Works Department Wetland Permit application. And Dawn, I believe that's the item that you're here to discuss with us tonight.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. And back in last October, I believe it was, the town council had voted to have Woodbury Street, a new sidewalk put in that would connect the high school with Daniel Webster highway. And if you know this area of town at all, Woodbury Street is quite steep in the beginning, and then it levels out and it becomes very narrow as you get towards Daniel Webster. So my mission has been to design a 5-foot wide paved sidewalk that runs down the southerly side of Woodbury Street. In order to do that, we had to back up a little bit. I've got a little bit of wetlands that we're going to have to fill in order to put the sidewalk in, hence my reason for coming tonight. I also had to go to the Sauhegan River Advisory people because, as you can see from here, this is part of my presentation I did with them a couple of weeks ago. It falls within the 1,250 foot from the Sauhegan River. This is the project here, is putting in this sidewalk from one end to the other end.
Are you sharing a screen, Dawn? We can't see that.
You can't see that. Well, that is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's all right. We've got the right guy. Nick, can we?
Hold on, I've got it. There we go. Share. My error.
Okay, now we can.
There you go.
Yep,
okay.
Now we can see it.
So this is the 1,250 square foot, the 1,250 foot from the Sauhegan River, and we clearly fall right within that area. So we went to them and we had their blessing. They will sign the application. Since it's such a small area, I'm asking for an expedited wetlands application, but I still have to go to them and to you also and have your signature or not on the application. So this is again the sidewalk along the south side of Woodbury Street. And this was the aerial. These are the ones that I prepared for the SOLAC meeting. Unfortunately, I had not finished my design at that point. I was working on it. I had it almost done. And I'm still working on the plans. This is the topography. And as I was saying, it is very steep at the beginning and then it flattens out. And you'll find it narrows up down here. So part of this project is also going to be to widen this entrance so that I can meet the 24 feet to make the turning in and out better along Woodbury Street. This was my original that I had sent to them, but I've since been obviously working on that plan. So this is now the new set of plans. They're not quite finished. I have not done a check at all yet at this point, but this is what the cover sheet will look like anyway, showing the Sauhegan River. This is the back area. If you remember when the dam was in, it would flood up into that area. But since they've taken the dam out, this area does not flood to the degree that it did before. And we're not touching any of this area anyway. The only area we're touching is right along Woodbury Street. There's a drainage ditch that runs down the side of the street. So the sidewalk would run 5 feet wide all the way down the street. This is a fairly steep slope coming back up, and the high school is sitting up here. This is McElwain Street. I have some of my interns, I have to apologize. They're taking their turn in drafting, and it needs a little bit of help, but we're getting there. So we've got the street. We're going to replace the granite, the paved curve that runs down the street now with a granite curve, and then put the sidewalk right up against it so that we don't have the usual 3-foot grass panel. The best way to do that is with granite and not with the bituminous pavement. So we've got the 5-foot sidewalk. I also did a 2-foot shoulder, and I did that because this ditch line, if you ever go up and down that street, there's a really deep ditch line and swale that comes down through. And I don't want somebody just falling off into there. I want a little bit of a buffer. So that's what I put in. And I did a 3-to-1 or down to a 2-to-1, depending upon where I was at. So this upper part here, we're going to be grading into that right up to within 10 feet of the driveway that goes around the backside of the high school. This area that's in blue down here is the area that we're impacting with the fill into that ditch line. That ditch line is a wetland, and it comes all the way up into this part here. and it comes down, and then the wetland comes out, and then way down here is where the backwater area starts, which is the bigger wetland area. This ditch line is not it's not a stream or anything. What we've had in the past is there are a whole number of catch basins with outfalls. So I'm going to try to treat some of this the water coming out. I haven't got shown on here, but I'm going to do some of the riprap level spreader berms, rock coming across to slow the water down, to hold some of it back. It is still fairly steep. I'm going to do the best that I can. We've also got another pair of catch basins here that dump out right into the wetland. I'm not proposing to change a whole lot of the drainage. This drainage was fairly new, and I believe it has sumps on them already. Yes, it does have some sumps. And there's another catch basin up here that then dumps out into the beginning of this. What I've got is a swale, or will have is the swale 2 feet wide coming down through. So basically it's going to function and stay exactly the same as it has been all along. This is the bottom half of the street, and there's no wetlands down here. This is the bottom end. It's, like I said, I pulled it back. Some of this is like 2.5 to 1. Could I go to 2 to 1 slope? Maybe, but I'm just nervous where it is so steep and we've got pedestrians walking through there, that I feel better having a little bit of buffer in there. The other area that we're doing is we're adding this little bit of pavement in through here to be able to widen this road out to 24 feet, and it slopes back in. We have the land area in here to be able to do that. The other side of the street is right up against the right-of-way line. So that's what we have. We're going to do on the slopes that we cut. We're going to have the slope stabilization. This is the ditch line that I'm proposing. And I guess I'll put all the other erosion control in. I haven't, like I said, I have not finished all of that. They were just trying to finish this sheet up tonight. The other thing that I had, we went out and took some photos of this little wetland area, which is basically this ditch right up and through here. And I don't know if you can see, there's a couple of flags hung on some of these trees in through here. There's one there. So it's just this little section in here. There's a flag there. And most of this has just been caused by the catch basin's outlet. It's there. And this is looking back down the street. And then back down. So any questions? That's what we're after. I would like to hopefully get the application. It's almost complete. I want to get it done by Friday this week. I'm waiting for one more piece of information from the state to put into the application, and then it should be complete for their submittal. I would like to do the 30-day expedited, because otherwise we're going to be 6 months out if we do a full standard wetlands application at this point. And this wetlands, I'm going to do as best I can to try to protect the bigger wetlands that's down below, which is much more important than what this is.
Mike, did you want to start with a question?
Yes. Would it be possible to use the sloped curb, the sloped granite, to allow turtles and such to climb over the sidewalk?
Let's see. You want sloped curbing? I don't know how many. There's no place to really have them go across the street. Like I said, the bigger wetland is down in through here. If you do the sloped curbing, then a car can mount it. It's easier for a car to mount it also. And that's one thing we want to try to get away from.
Don, with that currently, does rainwater from that comes off the road, is it going into that wetland area? And is that something that wouldn't happen anymore once the granite curbing is there?
It will not change from what it does today.
It won't, okay.
There's curbing there already, and we're just replacing it.
I see.
And the catch basins have been there for years. You know, they replaced those a number of years ago, I guess.
Okay, I couldn't remember if there was any curbing there now.
There's curbing on both sides of the street, especially on this steep part, and then it dissipates and then it picks up again down below. It's down in here. There's a small section in here that doesn't have any curbing right now. But that's all. This has curbing on this side. And then there's a section without. And then it picks up again right at these catch basins and goes all the way up the hill.
I see.
Don, in the past, it's such a steep road. I haven't been on there in the pouring rain, I don't think. Has there ever been any washout problems in the past with the flow coming down that slope?
No, not that I'm aware of. I think
Don,
that's probably why they put the curbing in years ago. That would be my guess.
Don, do you need a letter or anything from the Conservation Commission?
You need to sign the application, and you can certainly write a letter if you want. Your usual 30 days or whatever your normal time frame is. They've redone all of the applications fairly recently in the last year or so. So it has a place for the Conservation Commission's, the chairman's signature, if you choose to, or you can write a letter.
Okay, so this was DES?
Yes.
Okay, and was this, I can't remember her last name, but I think her first name was Seta?
Seta, yes.
Okay, all right, so I have her email.
So with what Don's asking for, it's an expedited wetlands permit. So what that means is that this meeting, we would need to authorize the chairman to sign the application on behalf of the Conservation Commission. And by doing that, we waive our rights for an extended review period. And we basically are saying that we believe that the project as proposed is okay. It doesn't mean we can't follow it up with a letter to DES and give them our thoughts on it, but it allows DES to move forward with their process and not wait the potential 40 days that the commission could have in order to provide input. So that's what's going on here. And where the application isn't here yet, we would be, going on what Don is telling us and then providing the chairman the opportunity to sign off, which would happen once the application was received and stamped as received by the town clerk. So the town clerk would receive the application and then copies would be distributed out, and we would need to sign off on the copy that ends up going to DES in order to move this thing forward.
I believe they all have to be signed first before they can go to the town clerk, because once they get to the town clerk, you're supposed to sign all of them, and she sends out the DES one immediately.
You're right about that. Yep. Sorry, I've been having trouble getting myself unmuted. I'm not sure how much of what I said got through.
No, that helped him. We heard you. So what would we vote? Make a motion to approve this when it reaches us?
Yeah, essentially, since she doesn't have the actual permit here, you'd be authorizing the chairman to sign based on what was discussed here. So, Steve, it would be your due diligence just to thumb through it and make sure nothing changed. And I'm not expecting Dawn to change anything. And certainly she would highlight it if she did. But that's basically what we're doing, is to pre-authorize you to sign off.
Okay. So can I make a motion then to authorize chair?
I'd like to ask a couple questions. You could make the motion, but I'd like time to ask a few more questions, if I may.
You can ask first.
So Don, how many square feet are going to be impacted permanently?
2,431 square feet.
So what is our mandatory mitigation, or is there any mandatory mitigation for that?
There isn't on this one. I can go
Right.
up to 3,000 square feet.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to be sure. Okay, because if so, for the rest of the members, if there was a mitigation involved, then we would want to weigh in on that mitigation strategy, and that could include a payment to an arm. It could be an offsetting activity or something like that.
Just like what we just did for the Sauhegan Trail project. Or going through on that one.
So the last comment I'd like to make is I think the other Mike made a really good point. So this is an uplands to a wetland, which means that in nesting season, the turtles are going to move out of the wetland and move to the upperlands in order to lay their eggs and hatch their young. And then the young are going to make their way back to the wetland. So having a curve that's an abrupt 90-degree angle will prevent turtles, if they happen to have hatched on the opposite side of the street or something like that, it would prevent them from getting across the street, getting up over the curb and down to the wetland. So I think it would be a good strategy if we considered a tapered one, which I understand you have concerns with, Don, or is there a way we can make tapered ones every so often in order to provide for that? Because if not, the turtles are going to run into it. They're not going to get over it. They're going to bounce down the street and keep looking for a place to get over. And that will leave them open to traveling cars and bicycles and everything else.
I'd rather doubt that they're going to go up Woodbury Street where it's so steep. I mean, you can't even walk that slope at this point. So I rather doubt they'd go up there. So the only area I could think that they would possibly cross would be right down in here. There's a driveway that goes out back to one of the malls or a car place, I guess it is, in here. Presently, there is no curbing in through here. So if I were to do something in this area where it would make more sense to me anyway, where we've got a wetland on one side, some upland and wetlands on the other side, possibly they might cross in through here. Would that satisfy if I did something sloped curb within this side and then left? I'm going to leave the other side alone anyway. And this section doesn't have any curbing at all right now, from this catch basin down to about this catch basin. There's no curbing on the north side. So if I made a sloped curb somewhere in this section where they would be likely to come up and possibly cross, I don't think they're going to go up those steep hills. Would that be big enough area for you to?
For me, I think so. I think because that's the closest to the wetland. So I think that's reasonable. And it is pretty dry and sandy out behind those buildings along that roadway that comes off of Woodbury.
Right, but they're not going to, those slopes, you can't even walk up those slopes there.
Just so you know, Don, we've been very surprised because we've put trackers on turtles, and you'd be surprised where turtles will go and how ingenious they can be. And they do travel more than a couple of miles from their home wetland, just for your awareness.
I'm well aware because they end up in my yard, thank you. In fact, I came out my driveway Saturday morning and there was one crossing the main road. So yeah, I live at a pond, so I have all kinds of good stuff.
Mike Drewen, you okay with that?
Yep.
Ready for a motion?
I think so.
All right, so I will make a motion to give authorization to Chair Steve Perkins to sign on the behalf of the Conservation Commission any documentation or approvals required from New Hampshire DES to move this project forward.
Second.
Thank you, Gina. Motion by Gina, seconded by Mike. Any further discussion from anyone? Okay, by roll call vote. I vote yes. Mike Laver,
Yes.
Gina,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike Druin,
Yes.
and Tim.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries by a vote of 7-0-0.
Thank you.
I think that does it, Don. Thank you for coming and answering our questions and talking to us about that. I will I'll look for that application to come across.
Yeah, I can send you an email or have Sharon send you an email. Hopefully by the end of the week, like I said, it should be all set. I'm just waiting for one more letter from DES.
Okay. Well, don't let us become the speed bump. As soon as I get it, I'll review it and look for these things. But if you don't hear from me right away,
Okay.
shoot me a note or something.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. The next item we had under new business is Scholar Waterfront Park and the address. I assume one of the mics wants to talk to us about this. Either one of you. Go ahead, Mike Druin.
Well, if the other Mike raises his hand too, I'll let him speak first.
Okay. So I know I had a little communication with Sharon, and I know the police and the fire would like to see it continuation of Griffin Street. And I don't know if any of you noticed, if you go on Google, if you look for that place on Google, it's like One Park Way or something like that, but they want nothing to do with that. Yeah. But it does, Griffin Street seems to make the most sense to me, looking at the map. I tried to see what the Flying Eagles, if they had an address, but I couldn't find one on their website. They had a location, but not an address.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, I missed something. What are we trying to resolve here or come to a conclusion on?
They want an official address for Scholar Waterfront Park, and what street it's on, for emergency response.
And did they reach out to you, Mike, about this? I didn't see anything.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, they. Yes, they did. Yeah, so you saw it on the map that she sent. You can see Griffin Street kind of. So they had it circled, and it kind of continues into that area. I know Karen Street's is around there, and Google lists it. I don't know where Google got that name, but I think their preference is Griffin Street.
And if I'm not mistaken, the parcel in the tax map calls it Karen.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I forgot to check the tax map, but I think I remember that.
Go ahead, Mike.
Will the road on the map still show up, or will it be removed? Because without it, it's very difficult to actually find the entrance to Sklar.
The road on the map, what do you mean?
The road going from Griffin down through the tunnel.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just not clear. So it was the fire department wants us to provide them input on what this road should be called?
Yeah.
This address?
Yeah, I guess there's no, Tim said Karen Street's on the plot number, so I mean, I guess we should just double check that if that's, but Griffin Street kind of runs straight down into there. And that seemed to be what they favored, they liked, as you can see from that map. But yeah, they're confused about what is the official address. They need an official address for a response.
So I'm confused because it's the fire department that sets the addresses. I thought they had the final say.
Right. Well, I guess this is their request. I'm confused too.
I seem to remember an email from, let's see, didn't we get an email on this?
I don't remember seeing one.
I think it was from Sharon maybe a little while ago. See if I can find it.
While you're looking, I just Googled around real fast, and Flying Eagles is on Drobish Patterson Field, and they're giving two different addresses, 12 Griffin Street and 14 Griffin Street for that.
Good, so you found a Griffin Street address for Flying Eagles?
Yeah, well, there's 12 and 14. I found two, depends on, I found, there's a website, www.snhflyingeagles.org, and that lists it with the Drobish Patterson Field at 14 Griffin Street.
Oh, I looked at that. I didn't even see that. I saw they live as a field, but I didn't see that. That's great. I mean, that would be consistent. I mean, I intentionally looked to see what address they had because we're at the same place that they are.
Well, and then what's interesting is like on the side of my computer now is popping up the Google square, wherever it says it gives 12 Griffin Street.
So I found the email. It was Sharon had sent it to you, Gina, and then you sent it to everybody else when you sent the draft agenda.
Well, I should have.
I mean, it's a small paragraph if you want me to read it.
Sure.
Okay, this is where Sharon added the agenda item for this because it's currently the parcel where Scalar is located is an unnumbered lot off of Karen Street. She reached out to the fire marshal, who, like Tim said, is responsible for assigning property addresses. And he said he could give the parcel an address on either Griffin Street or Karen Street. An address on Griffin Street seems more logical to her because of the parking lot. And the fire marshal did confirm that the end of Karen Street just opens into an undeveloped wooded area, but he wanted to have the commission have a discussion before he made any changes.
Kind of makes sense then to give this like 14 Griffin Street or something like that. No, wait a minute. 60 Griffin Street.
Yeah, I mean, we can say we want Griffin Street and they can put the number in.
Yeah. That does make more sense to me too.
So I'm sharing Merrimack GIS, and this shows number 12 Griffin Street, which is the unnamed road that goes down under the railroad tracks and out towards the town lot and Sklar property. So we could either call it 12 Griffin or we could name the unnamed road, right?
10 Have Street.
No.
Well,
I'll call it Sklar Ave. Sklar Avenue. Actually, go ahead.
Griffin Street seems to make the most sense.
Yeah. I would agree, because the clearing, it just dumps out into the woods, and then you've got to cross the railroad tracks in order to get on the property. So we don't want people to be encouraged to actually go to the end of Karen Street to enter the property. That's just prone to all kinds of issues.
And if Griffin Street's the address already being used by Flying Eagles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then whatever number it is, the fire marshal, fire assistant chief there will do the right thing. So I wouldn't worry about the number. I'd let him decide what it is.
Yeah. All right.
At some point, though, you might want to consider a sign or something that directs people, right here at the edge of Griffin Street.
Yeah, we're eventually going to approach the town to improve the entrance. Kyle has a little plan to cut that turn in a bit.
Yeah.
Get it signed and everything.
Because the town owns this other lot here where this building is, I believe, or maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe not.
It's it's a pump house or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So, and then you may consider at some point naming the unnamed street or road, or at least call it a path or something like that, right? So.
Okay. Well, I think we have an answer. Mike, do you want to get back to Sharon and tell her?
Sure.
Thanks.
Is there anything that we can do? Because when you Google Sklar Waterfront Park, it comes up with, what was it, 3 Merrimack Way or something like that?
Park, is it Merrimack Park Way, or it's some weird. I don't know where Google got that.
Where Google gets everything else. In the big magic hat.
You can submit an update to Google to fix mistakes on Google. I think there's an ability to do that.
Yeah, it's 1 Merrimack Park Way according to Google.
Yeah.
It's a nice name.
Do we know where that really is?
I don't know. It just popped up.
The fire department wants nothing to do with that name.
Okay. Well, you can add missing information, or we can suggest an edit. It says own this business. So we can certainly suggest it, when we'll leave that up to the fire department. When they figure out what number it is, they can fix it. Or we can fix it.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to number 3, Sklar Waterfront Park River Trail and Ferry Trail. Who wants to tell us about these?
All right.
Mike Drew.
All right. So I walked there several times because the app wasn't working the first couple times, and it was really hot, but I got it done. How do I share my screen?
Along the bottom should be a green icon that says share screen.
All right. Hold on. All right. All right, hold on. All right, can you see it?
Not yet.
Hold on.
I think after you do the green button, it'll make you choose which one of your screens. Oh, yeah, now we're getting it.
All right. All right. So you all see this? All right. So I just did it the same line because it was easier, and I wanted to see how long it was. But you see the name of the road right there. The parking lot is right next to the red dot, right? You all see that?
Yes.
All right. And the green dot is the boat launch. So the Scholar subcommittee met on their first meeting, and we walked the property, and we kind of flagged where we thought was the best path for these trails based on how the land floods. So we were trying to pick the highest parts. So this is the first trail here. What was the name of it, Mike?
River Trail.
River Trail. So this is River Trail. And where it crosses the Natticook Brook is where it ends, where it would end. Because that little bend where it meets the road is a parking lot, parking space. And then it would go down, and what was the name of the other one?
Ferry Trail.
Ferry Trail. So Ferry Trail would go all the way down here, all the way down, until almost to the posted sign, no trespassing, at the end. And there's no loop to it, so you have to turn around and you have to go back, and you just go straight, and it goes to the parking lot. And that's it for now. We just want something basic, and we'll alter it as we go.
So, where it crosses the brook, that's that old stone bridge.
Yes.
And that little loop by the river is you can see and during low water, it's when you can see the ferry crossing.
And the ferry crossing is right where this little thing is.
All right, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you planning to reuse existing trails that are already out there, or that are, yeah?
This is all existing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many trails there.
Mm-hmm.
And that ferry trail is actually, it's beautiful. That last half of that is on that highland pine forest that overlooks the river. Whereas the river trail, a lot of that goes through that rutted area, trying to avoid what floods.
And so this is 1.37 miles combined.
So, Mike, are we meeting next Sunday?
Yes. I sent the email to Sharon, but I didn't get a reply, so I'll send her another one tomorrow.
She doesn't work Mondays, I don't believe.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're looking for permission to go ahead and start to actually create these trails here, these two trails.
What's the significance of the name Ferry Trail?
Well, Thornton's Ferry.
Okay, so you're talking Ferry?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were just, we just came up with these names.
No, that's fine. I was just curious. Yeah, if there was a special reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually, right, we hope to have a historical plaque or something where you can see the ferry launch area, the old area. Anita's doing her best to research it.
Do you have any ideas, Mike? Would there be some sort of signing? Is there anything in place now?
And there's nothing now, right? We figured this would be a good first step to actually do a trail out there, and then we'll probably next time we go out there, we'll probably need some materials, because I know you can't, if you cross that bridge, you need a ramp to come down it. There's a big step down, and there's also a steep slope somewhere. I think when you at the end of the river trail, there's a steep slope. It's open, ATVs have gone through there, but it's very steep. That's probably going to need some kind of stepping. But otherwise, I mean, that's all. It's pretty much already a trail.
Mm-hmm. I've not been here on this commission while we've kind of consecrated a new trail. What does that process look like? Do we just, if no one has objections, just move forward to this, or?
Yeah, ideally, we'd like to reuse what's already out in the field if it's existing. If it's not existing, or even if it's existing, we want to make sure that we account for erosion control and things like that. So we should be planning at steep slopes, how we're going to handle the water that's come rushing down, because, once it's moved 10 feet down, it picks up velocity, which can cause washouts and stuff like that. So you'd want to be planning for mitigating those kinds of things, similar to what Don is doing for Woodbury and other stuff like that. So that means water bars potentially, could mean riprap or something like that. Basically, you'd want to get water off the trail every so often as you go down and direct it away. We want to make sure that we're not going through any sensitive wildlife or plant life or anything like that. I don't think we have that issue with plant and fauna issues. So you'd want to be aware of poison ivy patches and stuff like that, and try to avoid bringing people into those kinds of areas, because you never know, kids wander off the side of the trail. Oh, look at that cute little froggy, that kind of stuff. So
it's everywhere.
Yeah, and I know. So you kind of either that, or you want to warn people, hey, there's this poison ivy along this trail, please be careful, that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of making sure that we follow all the right rules, that we don't ourselves create issues with plants and fauna and in wildlife spaces, and we don't introduce people into areas where they could be aggravating wetland issues or stuff like that. So if at all possible, that's pretty much what we look for. And then, if there's good nesting sites and stuff like that, we don't want to be bringing people through the middle of nesting sites if at all possible. So, and then the biggest thing is we'd like to encourage people to enjoy our properties, but they're conservation properties, which means we don't want to have trails crisscrossing all over the place. It's not a recreational spot. There's a balance. So as you decide to add more trails, you may want to decide to shut off certain trails that are already there. Things that are pretty much redundant. So if you've got two trails parallel, why have two of them? Just make one the primary and make the other one kind of go away over time. So that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of trails in the floodplain.
Yeah,
that's sure.
I guess it sounds like maybe that's one of the goals of these two trails, is to bring some of that traffic off the trails we don't want.
Yeah, well, this is foot traffic, right? The traffic that was going through the floodplain is 4x4s. Oh. It's 4 foot deep because it's sandy soil.
Mm-hmm. So So where would we go next, Tim, with something like this?
Well, it's a matter of the consensus of the board saying go ahead, or the consensus saying go ahead, but with these adjustments. It's beyond that. I think we're pretty much fine. So I know the ferry trail. I helped clean that part of Sklar Park when we had our big cleanup. So that's pretty much an upland area. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's really any wet issues there.
There's already a trail there.
Yeah. It's a pretty mature trail too. So
sounds like the river trail is the same way. Is that?
The river trail is picking the safest, the highest spot we could pick, where there's, a half dozen old 4x4 vehicle track marks, but a lot of them get flooded in the rain or the higher river, so we can't really go close to the river. So we want to stay a little higher. People will navigate probably to the river anyway, but the problem obviously is keeping vehicles from going in there, and just keeping it to foot traffic on these trails.
I wonder, do you think if we developed a method to sign these, would that alone be enough to dissuade some folks from using the trails we don't want them on?
So there's dozens of signs over there. It's helped a lot, but hasn't eliminated. And Mark Tudowski has moved boulders in the way, and they've hauled some of those back out. But the bigger ones have managed to stay. So we're getting there. We've probably stopped 80% of the traffic, I think. But especially down by the river, they were able to move the smaller rocks. So if we could get even more large rocks, we would want them. And if we can get big rocks or some kind of barrier on some of those lower ones by the river to stop vehicles from driving past the boat launch and going up river or down river, that would be great.
The more we get people out there, the less that's going to happen, because there's just going to be too many people watching. So
I certainly have no objections. Cindy, do you have any questions?
Nope. Sounds reasonable, and I've been there, so I know, I can understand, where they were. If this was in another property, I would want to go out and walk it to see where they were, but I'm fine with these ones.
When I was there a few weeks ago, it's probably the best the properties looked. Yeah, usually I'm discouraged when I leave there.
I know.
But I was encouraged this last time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Gina?
Except for the deer.
Oh, I heard about the deer. That's too bad. No, I'm good. Do we need a motion or anything to proceed? And we all set, or?
So does the commission have a consensus, a go ahead for the Sklar subcommittee
Looks like we have more than a consensus. We have a
and that's we're really not. I mean, it's not a big property. We're not planning to do more than that really with trails right now, right, Mike?
Yeah. Right.
I think the nice thing, like someone contacted the Conservation Commission and they were looking for a property they couldn't get lost on. I think that's what we're looking for. We need properties where people can't get lost. So hopefully Sklar will be that property. It's kind of like I can get lost at Wildcat. Pretty much anywhere, but.
You do.
They'll just get poison ivy instead.
Yeah. I think I'd rather get lost.
Yeah, maybe we need a discussion sometime about goats, but that's a discussion for another day. I'm good to proceed.
So be it. Then I guess we're good. We'll move on to wooden trail signage.
Yeah, so I brought this up at the last meeting, and the town, you guys are all aware at Horse Hill and Greater Woods of those vertical post signs the town made a while back, like must be 13, 14 years ago. So when I talk about routed lettering, you see that in those vertical posts, and also in that picture that I sent, that you guys got sent to you. That's more of a kind of the trail signs that we need on lots of places on the property. You know, these vertical posts are used at like the major intersections. However, there's lots of areas, I know in Greater Woods, where people don't know where they are, and they just need a simple trail sign, you know, something smaller that tells them what trail they're on or what trail they're joining with, or and maybe possibly a distance. And if you route the lettering or the directional arrows, when the paint fades away or the coloring fades away, you can still read the sign because it's routed into the wood. So that's what the DPW do on those vertical signs. They routed that lettering into the sign, so we can still read all of those. What's fading are the directional arrows, which are on plates that they have at the top of the posts. Some of those can't be read anymore because they're not routed into the post. So that's what I mean by routed lettering. Is the lettering is actually indented into the wood with a router type of tool. And if we could do that on our properties, you know, I think the signs would last a long time, and people would stop. You know, we wouldn't get lost as much. And you can use that one. That's very simple. That's Squam Lake Association, SLA. So that's over by Squam Lake and the trails over there. I just took a picture of that. And that's just made with pressure treated lumber, but you can use oak or cedar also, which are more attractive, and you can paint them like the town painted the posts and routed. I did send a letter, an email to DPW, to Lori, but I haven't got a response yet. If they were willing to do signs over the winter. But I haven't. I'll try to reach out to her again, and if not, then we either we have to make some or have supply material and have somebody make some. But we definitely need some trail signs, and to keep it discreet, keep them small, you know, not all over the place, just at junctions, and to direct people to where the trails are.
Wonder where Squam Lake Association got these.
I don't know. They might have made them up. There's Forest Service does the same thing. You know, they do routed trail signs, or the Appalachian Mountain Club does the same thing. I just happened to be on that trail, and so I'm like, oh, I'll take a picture of this because this is about as basic, very basic, pressure treated lumber, routed lettering. You know, what does it have? Like yellow gold coloring or something. Yeah, and
I know there's at least one person in Merrimack that does it. That's why I thought if we posted something around town and got a couple of bids, then we can find out who's doing it if we want to go that route.
Yeah, and we would need a subcommittees. Probably, like Scalar is going to need signs, definitely, right? And I know Greater Woods needs probably a couple dozen signs, but no, Horse Hill may not. You know, I don't know.
I think Andrew has a question. He has his hand up.
Yeah, how do I?
Just tell him to go, and then he can take his hand down.
Go ahead, Andrew.
He has to unmute himself, though.
Maybe it was an accidental hand raise.
Maybe it was.
Sorry, between the hand raise and the mute, I got confused. At Wildcat Falls, we made our own signs. We were not aware that DPW had facilities to make them. It was actually very simple. It took an afternoon to make all the intersection signs we did.
And they were.
Did those signs have routed lettering, or are they just like painted on wood?
No, they were routed in. Somebody who used to be on our subcommittee had a set of stencils for the routers, which are easy to find, and my wife and I painted them.
Wow. Well, find that person.
Out of state now.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next, Mike? Do we want to try to?
Yeah. Well, I think
if for this, in case we can't find a volunteer that would do it.
So there's a bunch of places, you know, like what's that? Etsy or something, you know, that craft site online. But
Etsy.
Yeah, that's it. Itsy bitsy Etsy. Etsy. But you know, I just wanted to like get us going in a direction. And then if like when we're replacing signs and stuff and putting in new signs, if we could be more uniform and have you know, like use routed lettering like Wildcat Falls already does. So that's great. And those posts, those vertical posts that the DPW have done, those have routed lettering. You know, if we can just like decide as a commission, this is the direction we want to go with our signage, and then keep working to find maybe a volunteer to do it. And if we can't, or if the town won't do it, then we'd have to have them made.
Mm-hmm. I agree. They look great. Anyone else? Any other commentary on the signs? Okay. Well, the final item we had under new business is the stick bridge replacement at Greater Woods, and review the estimate for the materials needed for that. You want to talk to us about that, Mike?
Yeah. So with the lumber prices, these quotes are from like 2 weeks ago. So, so hopefully, you know, they haven't gone up too much. So got a quote from Reed's Ferry. And Reed's Ferry, I'm not positive this includes delivery or not, but I know Home Depot's does. So Reed's Ferry is $317.42 for the materials that Matt Karen requested to replace the stick bridge with a proper bridge. And Home Depot was $361.42. So myself, I'm a little more inclined to go to Reed's Ferry because it's a small local place, and they were a little cheaper anyway. But the Home Depot was without any discount. You know, I tried to talk to somebody, I couldn't. I just kept getting the phone chain thing. So $317.42 at Reed's Ferry, $362.42 at Home Depot. So if I could get like maybe, you know, not to exceed $400 or something to cover any increases or additional delivery costs. I have, you guys have the lumber list, or you want me to tell you what lumber that includes?
I've seen it.
Yeah. So, and then, so probably that delivery won't be able to get all the way into the gate off of Greater Road. So probably when they deliver that lumber, it'll probably be on Amherst land. So we should probably contact the Amherst Conservation Commission to let them know that there might be a pile of lumber there for a day or two. Yeah.
That's the part. Mike, did Matt indicate when they would be able to do it? That's the part that worries me, is having lumber sit anywhere nowadays.
Right, so we won't have it delivered until we get a date from him. First, I get this approval, and then I'll get back to Matt Karen. I'll copy you, Steve. And then when he comes up with a date, and then I'll go and have the town pay for it, have Fund 52 pay for it, and 53? Fund 53, sorry. That was very subtle, very good. And and then we can deliver it on the date. Say like Matt's probably going to do it on the weekend, and maybe they can't deliver it Saturday, and they might have to deliver it Friday. Well, it might be there for a day or something, or if he does it on Sunday,
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
I'd feel more comfortable if I did the delivery myself with my truck, because that lumber is going to walk away if anyone knows about it.
This might be hard to deliver in a truck, because weren't some of these 16-foot?
There's 2 by 6 by 16 feet, yeah, and there's a 12-footer, and the decking is 12 feet. So I'll it'd probably be just like overnight, most likely. That'd be my guess. I doubt the delivery can happen the second that they get there. And I would meet or one of us would meet the delivery. I don't know. You think it? I don't know. I don't think it'd disappear overnight.
It's not easy to walk off, I guess, with a 16-foot.
Yeah. So it's 16 feet, Mike. That's yeah. I thought of that too, like having but then, right.
I don't know. I put a 17-foot kayak on top of my SUV with brackets, so 16 feet could be handled. Just want to let you know that.
Yeah, if you bundle it right with the other,
yeah,
so it doesn't bounce. Yeah, if you have do you have racks on your?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have racks and Tim, are you talking about a pickup truck or a car?
No, I'm talking about an SUV.
Oh, SUV, yeah.
I got a T-bar that goes in my trailer hitch, and I got a rack on the front near the front windshield, and I carry a 17-foot kayak. It extends far off on each end, but it works.
Are you guys volunteering to pick it up and deliver it?
Well, I think you should speak to Matt, because he may want to prep some of that wood at home, because those decking boards, you might want to cut them to length before you even bring them out there.
Yeah, I think with the battery saws, I don't know, he might cut them where they're dropping.
We've done that. We've also brought portable generators in the woods and done it that way too. So
yeah. Well, once we get the approval, I can talk to him more.
Why don't we do that? Why don't I make a motion now, just so we get the $400 on the table, and then you can talk to Matt and work out all the specifics. And this ain't Matt's first rodeo, so I'm sure he'll have some suggestions and ideas.
Righto.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the expenditure not to exceed $400 to build a stick bridge replacement in Greater Woods for funds coming from Fund 53.
Second.
All right, motion by Gina, seconded by Mike. Does anyone need further discussion? Okay, by roll call vote, I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mike Druin?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. 6 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstained. All right, finally, moving on to old business. The only item we had under old business was the Chapter 111 recap from the town council meeting. Tim, again, thank you for for going there and speaking about, you know, where we've gone or how far we've come on chapter 111. Did you want to just kind of tell us where we go from here?
Yeah, so I did a presentation to them that I believe forwarded to all of you way back in September of 2020 or thereabouts. Simply a few slides that basically spoke about what the current rules are or items that are in the chapter, the ordinance, and the properties that are affected. And then I spoke to the changes. You know, questions revolved around the use of firearms and spring-powered rifles. And we got clarification as to what those really are. But a few changes they suggested, and I wanted to make sure that we were all on board with those changes, or if the commission wanted to go back and rehash that with the town council one more time, because the next step in the process is to draft the ordinance language, which means we're going to involve legal, and we're going to start putting that all together. And once we have that draft language to the point where we think it's appropriate, then we'll have our own public hearing so we can get public input before we bring it to the town council. So, but some of the things they wanted to see is there was a discussion around e-bikes because we were proposing no e-bikes on our properties. The council came back and said that they would like to allow for class 1 e-bikes. Those are the e-bikes that require you to pedal in order for you to get the battery assists or the electric assist. They are limited as to how fast you can go. It's pretty much the very first stage of an electric e-bike because class 2 means you don't actually have to pedal, and class 3 is, you know, bordering on moped or motorbike at that point. So they would like us to change the language on e-bikes to instead of saying no e-bikes, to say e-bikes, class 1 e-bikes. So that's number one. Any discussion, any concerns?
I still have e-bike concerns. I think it's going to lead us into a Pandora's box.
I agree with Mike.
Is a class 1 e-bike what someone who, because I understand that people say, but if you have a disability and you need an e-bike, is a class 1 with is that what someone with a disability would be riding, or would they need something that you do not pedal at all?
So, yeah, well, it really depends on the individual, which is why there's an overriding state or federal statute that allows people with disabilities to utilize, I forget the term for it, it's a long name, special motorized, I know we've talked about it in previous meetings, but I forget what that really is. So I think in the case of someone with a handicap, that's covered outside of our ordinance, but I can certainly address that with the town attorney and make sure that we're covered. But I would tend to doubt a class 1 would be acceptable in that case. So they'd want something more motorized and probably something that looks closer to a wheelchair or something like that if they're really that disabled. So
yeah, I agree with the Mikes. I think once you say that any type of e-bike is allowed, that just opens Pandora's box, and you know, people will be saying, but it's a class 1.
Mm-hmm. I had a couple of e-bikes zip past me on a Gateway Trail in Greater Woods the other day. And I mean, I think they're a class 1, but they were moving pretty good. Yeah,
I can move pretty good on a mountain bike too, depending on the trail. So
yeah, true.
I remember when we spent a lot of time talking about this issue. Maybe it was the issue we debated the most. It seems like when we talked about it though, or spoke about it, whatever that was, a year and a half ago, there weren't the classifications didn't exist then, or certainly I didn't know about them. I don't think we discussed them like they do now, you know, where there is clearly defined classes. I know a lot of the feedback and the concerns that we raised about preventing or prohibiting e-bikes on the properties were all those higher class ones where someone could really achieve, you know, I think our greatest concern was someone's going uphill on an e-bike at 20 miles an hour and someone coming down at the same speed on a traditional bike. And, only e-bikes, these, that higher class of e-bike allowed, or, created the conditions for that to happen. I don't know that I feel like class 1 e-bikes raised to the degree of the concerns we had. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because I doubt most people would know the difference. If every bike had in big letters class 1 and this one said class 2, then I would be more open to it. But I don't know that people that have e-bikes even know what class they are. I think all they're going to see is, oh, e-bikes are allowed. Okay. And I think we still have the issue like at Horse Hill, no motorized, or other places where there's no motorized vehicles allowed.
So certain properties have restrictions on motorized, so those won't change. Those are in the deed, and those were considered our all passive properties, which are 13 of the 62. So that's not going to change there. We're just talking about the ones that don't have it specifically for general use. So basically, we're talking about where we allow bicycles to exist on those other properties. Horse Hill would be one of them. So no motorized only applies to the OHRVs, and that was a special thing that wasn't deeded. That was something we did, and it's something I want to discuss in a few minutes. So
okay.
So let me give you a thought. If you were to hold to your guns about e-bikes, I bet you this changing Chapter 111 would be a non-starter, and there'd be no change at all. Mm-hmm. I think the town council will hold tight to their desire there, and because they want to help satisfy the requests of other people. I don't think you're going to get away with convincing them that you can't have Class 1 e-bikes, but you can try. But I'd be honest with you, I wouldn't even go to the attorney to start drafting language for this Chapter 111 update until you went back to the town council and said, yeah, but this is why A, B, C, and D. You might get them to change, but that's a battle that I would request all of you take on, and then let me know what you want to do.
Well, could we not have it in the charter and just make our rules, for the property? I mean, I know it wouldn't be enforceable, I guess, but like not to say that, I don't know, maybe it will get easier to tell the difference at some point, between the different ones.
They are marked. I mean, if they're done professionally, they actually tell you what class they are on them. You're not going to see it when they're doing 10 miles an hour right past you. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that's the same as a mountain bike or even an illegal OHRV or trail bike on the trails. You're not going to be able to tell. You're just But
I think one of the sentiments that I heard when you presented this to them, one of the sentiments from the town council was certainly from a couple of councilors, they would have problems. If public funds were used to purchase some of these parcels, and e-bikes are really fun to ride for some members of the public, then they would have problems banning the use of e-bikes. And I understand why they feel that way.
Well, but you know what? ATVs are really fun for people to drive too. They just happen to, trash the trails. My only argument is that with an e-bike, and the same thing with a mountain bike, quite honestly, but I guess mountain bikes are allowed. If I have seen people come by on mountain bikes really, really fast, come around a trail, and it's a very near miss collision with a dog, with a child, with an adult. So on an e-bike, you're coming even faster. So I guess my question would be, I certainly don't want to see anybody get hurt, but where is the liability on that? Is that on us? Is that on the town? Is it on the town council? Where is it? So, because I am going on the record saying I'm not going to go fight with the town council because I know I'll lose, but I am going on the record saying that I think e-bikes are a terrible idea to let Class 1 in, because I think it will open the gate and all of the e-bikes will come in. So we can have this conversation in a year and see where we stand. But I'm on record saying I don't agree with that.
All right, so I can have some direction then. I would like to, I guess, move that we allow Class 1 e-bikes on our properties, just to understand what the will of the commission is.
All right. Second. Any further discussion from anyone? Okay, by roll call vote, I vote yes. Mike?
I'm gonna vote no.
Gina?
No.
Cindy?
No.
Mike Truan?
No.
Tim?
Yes.
Okay. That motion does not pass by a vote 2 in favor, 4 objections, no abstentions.
All right, let me complete the rest of this and then we'll decide on next steps, okay? I did get clarification that we do have a fire warden that came up about fires. We had asked that there be no fires allowed on our properties because there was concern as to who is the fire warden, and it also required in the original language Conservation Commission approval. I learned we have a fire warden, so that's good to know. I did realize that. But when it comes to fires, as well as some of the other items that we said that we wouldn't allow, like camping and other things, it was decided that that if we had general language in the ordinance that said that the desire that you can have those with permission of the town council or its designated agents, which is very similar to what we had already done on a couple of other places. So essentially what was planning on doing was we draft the language as to what the restrictions are and then say that it can be done by exception with these other folks. Specifically taking the commission out of the approval cycle because we have no ability as the commission to do enforcement. We're advisory only. We don't have a process to ask for that permission and all that. And therefore, originally we decided when we put this chapter together back in 2019 and early 2020 that we weren't going to put us in the middle of those kinds of discussions any longer. So I was going to put some overarching language to cover those other items where so I think that's pretty straightforward. Of course, we're not going to, I mean, potentially one of those items would be the use of alcohol on the properties. If someone wanted to have a wedding at Horse Hill and wanted to be able to toast the wedding, the nuptials, if someone wanted to have requests to have alcohol, there should be a process that will allow them to do that. And we're going to now shift that process to the responsibility of the town council or the designated agents. Go ahead, Ma. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tim, I had sent you an email. I just probably the language is already in there, but like people setting up overnight structures without permission, like log structures, tarps, tents. There must be wording in there saying that's not allowed without permission, or is there?
So we were proposing that we don't have camping without permission. So
yeah, I mean,
we've got no destruction of property. So if they're taking trees down in order to erect these things, they're destroying the property.
But I've seen structures. People will take dead trees, make teepees. People will set up tarps for shade and leave them there by the river or in the properties. And
then it's trash.
Right.
It's trash, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to leave it behind, it's trash.
Yeah, but I was wondering if
right now we have no language for that. If you'd like to suggest it, we can we can add that and see if the town council will go with it.
I'd like to see it because that way it's there. It's, you know, you need the permission. That way we don't get in trouble if we take a structure down or something like that, you know?
Well, we as owners, we can do what we want, so.
Yeah. Do you think it's redundant, not necessary?
Honestly, I do, but if you've got specific language, I'd love to, you know, let's look at it, because maybe you'll hit on some, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but you might, you know, put together something that really makes good sense. Okay. But right now, I think it's trash. Someone leaves something behind, it's trash. Carry in, carry out.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was covered somehow, because we see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing we have in there is defacing of any building, equipment, gate, barricade, wildlife, tree, shrub, flower, or fauna. So if people are creating, you know, a duck blind by using the ferns and everything else that are around, or cutting branches off of trees to create a blind, that's covered as well. Shall I move on?
Yep.
We did get a request by the Parks and Rec director that where our property on Wasserman Conservation Area abuts the Wasserman Park, that we erect signs along that property line that inform people that their dogs are required to be on a leash once they enter the Wasserman Park area, which is chapter 142. Because we suggested not covering dogs in our chapter because there's already a dog ordinance, and the dog ordinance general through town is dogs under your control, and of course picking up after your dogs. So if your dog soils the ground, you're supposed to clean up for that across anywhere in the town of town of Merrimack. Not everyone does that, of course, which is why we have the poop loop on Horse Hill. So just be aware that we are obligated to, along that property line where our trails cross back into Town Park, to put up a few signs to do that. I think that's a very reasonable accommodation, and something we would have to fund and have created, or we could request that the Parks and Rec director have it done and then build a commission, however you want to do it. So. Go ahead, Mike.
So why don't they do it? Why do we have to pay for it? They want it done.
Because we're changing the rules on the property. So it's our choice to change the rules right now. On some of our parcels, they're required to control their animals just the way we are. So this is different.
And dogs don't have to be in control at Wasserman Park, is it?
They do. They have to actually be on a leash or in a cage.
So on our properties, they just have to be in control, like voice control.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we decided as a commission was to fall back to the town statute, which just says in the owner's control. Yeah. So depending on the dog, that could be on a leash because that's the only way to control the animal, or it could be by voice. I've seen, some dogs are very well trained and will respond to their owners very quickly. I don't think that's a big expense. We're not talking a lot of dollars, so I think so. So then we had stated that all properties would not allow OHRV traffic because we wanted to just stop OHRVs altogether. The only place where we really had it allowed to be used was Greater Woods. Over time, the right riders have ceased to support that use on the property and is participating both at the subcommittee level. And we did have a right rider for a while on the Conservation Commission itself. So we took the stance when we put our draft language was to not allow OHRV use on any property. The council has come back and said, well, didn't we have language on one of our properties that said if there was an approved organization that supported it? And I said, yes, on Horse Hill, or maybe I brought it up. I forget exactly the exchange. But basically I stated that on Horse Hill, the language is no OHRVs until there's a state approved organization to support that use and handle that maintenance. The council has requested that in our ordinance where we state no OHRVs anywhere, that we add language that, you know, if a state approved group comes together and wants to formulate and wants to, you know, do the maintenance required for an OHRV use, that we would relook at this for that particular properties. So I was going to try and get the language right to mimic similar to what's in the Horse Hill Nature Preserve Master Plan. I would hope that if a group came together, I mean, that we would have, the commission would have the opportunity to weigh in on what trails would be appropriate and which wouldn't, similar to what we do now, because there are certain trails for conservation reasons or for just the nature of the trail, like millipede or centipede or one of those that just, there was the switchbacks and all that stuff, Twister on Horse Hill. You don't want OHRVs going in there. There's no way you're going to get a quad through those. So, and then some of them, they get really close to wetlands and stuff like that. We don't want them going in. So I got to figure out what's the right way to put that language together, but they would like to see language that allows that use without having to change the ordinance. So, and then the last thing that came up is, you know, I realized after all this time that, you know, we have one of our property types was a well property, and I never actually got feedback from the MVD as to if they wanted any special restrictions on the few properties that we have that are either contain a well or are very close adjacent to a property that has wells on it. So I need to reach out to MVD and get that feedback if there's anything that they want to do in addition to what we currently do. So that's, I believe, a pretty good recap of what went on there. I mean, of course, you can watch the meeting, but those were the concerns that were raised and that they asked us to address.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, you're welcome. So at this point, you know, based on the earlier vote that we just took, and I think you would all agree that the council, or tell me, do you agree that the council won't go forward with this if we leave the no e-bike restriction in? Or do you want to take this up again with the council after formulating your arguments for allowing e-bike?
Well, seeing them at the meeting, I think they really wanted that wording that Horse Hill had, that, you know, that they asked you to do for the other properties. You know, I don't think we have much of a chance there. So I'm okay with that.
I think for me, Mike, what you just said touches on two subjects. I was touching on e-bikes, and the language I'm talking about is for OHRVs, which is, you know, trail bikes, mountain bikes, you know, quads, that kind of stuff. So you thinking that if we put in rules around or an exception for e-bikes, if there's a group that supports it, is the path you want to go, or what? I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, yeah, if we could lump them into motorized use, if there was an organization that would support it, then I don't know how we can stop it with that language. You know, I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to see any of that language. However, you know, we're a committee and we're a town, and I'm trying to be realistic. You know,
I only have one opinion, but to answer your question, Tim, I think the town council gave us very few suggestions for changes to what we proposed, and it was a very comprehensive revision. But I absolutely do not believe that they will support our proposal if it doesn't embody their 4 recommendations, one of which being Class 1 e-bikes. But that's just one person's opinion. Mike, you have your hand up.
I think it would be reasonable if approved organization would maintain the trails and hold liability if someone got hit or crashed their e-bike at high speed. You know what I mean? That might be too much for an organization and it might never happen. So they'll get their thing, but really they won't.
So are you talking about an e-bike organization or something different?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not aware of any state-approved e-bike organizations. And liability, I'm not sure why. Can you tell me why you bring up liability?
Because if you're on the trail with a higher speed vehicle like an e-bike, there's a higher chance of more serious injuring yourself or injuring someone else, a dog, you know. So
are you afraid of someone suing you if they get injured on the trail? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Because
I might be thinking too much.
Because as long as we don't charge a fee to use the property, the town isn't liable. It's my understanding of state law, at least that's the way it used to be. So a person who is the operator of the vehicle would be liable for whatever damage that they create to themselves or someone else, in my opinion, but I'm not a lawyer.
So getting back to the other question, I mean, you know, if an e-bike is motorized, can't they be part of that motorized, you know, the qualification that these, you know, group and
Sure. Absolutely, but what kind of group then should we be advocating for if people wanted to do e-bikes? Would we be advocating for a state-approved e-bike group, or is it a state-approved OHRV group, or is it a state-approved snowmobile group? You have to help me. I'm not sure. You know, what group are you talking about?
I have no idea.
That's what I thought. So I'm not trying to be, you know, to work against you and all that. I'm just trying to put some reality to the conversation. But you could tell me to shut up, and I'm happy to do that. It's okay. I won't take it personally. And please don't take my comments personally. They're not meant personally. Okay.
I'm just trying to toss out some ideas to kind of, you know, you know, if we're gonna be driving into a wall here, you know, you might want to try to get around it somehow.
Maybe we're not driving into a wall. I've given you my opinion. Cindy, you were there.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, I agreed. They were very leery about putting that in, or accepting it, I should say. It's just a little frustrating, I guess, because in the past, I feel like we haven't necessarily gotten support when things have happened, as much support as we would like we would if we were a park. So if we're going to allow something that could potentially cause problems, we're the ones that are going to have to deal with it and potentially not have the support. So it's hard, but I don't want the whole project to go away either. You know, it's a hard one. I mean, I could see the same thing happening with the fires too, where we don't know anything. Somebody may or may not get approval, and there's fires out there, and we don't know whether it's approved or not. What do? Nothing? Do we call somebody? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. So in that case, Cindy, we would call whoever is the approvals for fires, which would be the council itself or whoever they designate. I'm assuming that would be the assistant chief or the fire warden. right? So that's how you would know whether it's approved or not. And maybe we'd even get a heads up that says, hey, I'm approving someone to have a fire at such and such a place at such and such a time. I mean, we can ask for that language, or we could put that in the process, right? So.
Well, that's true. That would, right. I mean, not to be cynical, but I, I don't know that we would be alerted, but I would like to at least ask to be alerted, but,
Yeah.
So if we don't put in no e-bikes, does that mean they're automatically allowed, or is that still something that we have leeway in? Like temporarily or something?
If it's not specifically mentioned, then it's allowed.
Okay. Because I was thinking now, before we just had the vote when e-bikes came about, and we said, nope, we don't want e-bikes. And so there's signs up at Horse Hill, and but yeah, technically.
It wouldn't be enforceable.
Right.
Right. So, and someone could lobby you to take the sign down if they really wanted to.
Right. Makes sense.
And theoretically, it's not enforceable now, right?
Exactly. It's not. It's only our desire.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Gina, you look frustrated.
Gina, you were there.
Town council's going to do what town council's going to do. I don't want town council wants them, town council will get them. So I went on record, and we're going to have e-bikes. So, and we can talk about what happens a year from now, but it's really not worth any more conversation.
So I think you've got a couple of paths. You can just not address e-bikes in the ordinance, and therefore they're allowed. But the problem you run into is now all e-bikes. So now you have to deal with class 2s and class 3s, okay? Because they're not covered by OHRVs. So you can't say no OHRVs per RSA, blah, 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 because they're not covered that way. So, so I think an appropriate course, my opinion, is that we stipulate only class 1 e-bikes. We see how it goes. If it becomes a problem, we document, and it's an ordinance that can be changed in a month, to maybe a month and a half's time anyways, once the commission wants to bring it to the town council. Because the town council can change the ordinance. They have to follow their 3-meeting rule set, which is what we're going to go through here shortly here with this. And at that point, you would have the argument to present to argue in your favor. Reality is, I think you're going to find that there's going to be a few bad eggs, and there'll be some people that will do very well, like we see with most every other use. But yeah, I could be mistaken. We could have a flood of e-bikes on a particular property, and it could create issues and concerns. So I don't know, but I think it's worse to not address it at all, because it opens the door to anything that's not covered by the OHRV ordinance. Okay.
So you go to town council and you say that the class 1 e-bikes was voted down by the Conservation Commission, but the town council can still do what they want, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, they have our opinion.
Yeah, but so I'm looking to draft the ordinance to put language in there. I'm happy to put the language in there, and then when we go to present it, we can say, but the commission disagrees with this phrase here, right? We took a vote 4-2. Commission was not in favor of this, but we're bringing this to you and making you aware. I would ask that the 4 who said no would provide some backup, so I can provide that backup, or provide that understanding, or go represent your own thoughts on it directly, or do both. Either way, I'm happy to do the will of I'm going to do the will of the commission, I should say, here. So I guess what I'm asking for is, do we just stop altogether? Do we draft it the way the council wants to see it, and then raise our opposition during the public hearing process with the council, or what would you like to do?
I'd say draft it and raise our opposition, so that it'll go through when either they'll reconsider or they'll go through with allowing it. So at least it gets done.
Yeah, we may learn while we put the language together that it's difficult to do. The town attorney may have thoughts on that, or whatever else. But I suspect we'll be able to find a way to make the language work. Then the question is raising the opposition. So, and we're going to touch on this again with our own public hearing after the language gets put together. So it's not like what you spoke about today in the arguments you raised today aren't the only ones. You're going to have a few weeks, if not a couple of months, to put together a more detailed argument in your favor that can be presented as well. So you may want to look at studies that have been done. You may want to see what other properties have done and what their experience level is. All of that.
Just to be clear then, are we wanting to move forward drafting the ordinance with the prohibition like we voted on tonight, or are we going to draft it the way town council's asked for it without the prohibition on class 1 e-bikes?
That's really my question to all of you. What would you like to do?
Well, can we draft it with our opposition noted, saying not allowed, and then, well, then you'd have to change it, right? If the town council.
Well, if they agreed, if after the discussion they agreed no e-bikes, yes, we would change the language, but we can do that during their review process, because you have to have 3 readings. The first one is to introduce it. The second one is to collect feedback from interested parties. And in each one of these readings, the town council can suggest a change. And then the third one is where they finally make their final decision with changed language or not. So.
Yeah, I'd say go forward, but our recommendation is no e-bikes.
Okay, so go forward with the language allowing class 1s, but raising our opposition to having that language. And
yes, as long as they're aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that draft it with the language that they've asked us to draft it with, and if we want to, we can appear at the first reading and tell them we drafted it this way because you asked us. But we do stand behind our recommendation that there should be no e-bikes.
Yeah.
Cindy, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if we want to put anything through, then yeah, we'll have to do that. I mean, in part, I guess, of what, our defense too is it can be changed, like you said, with a couple of 3 meetings. So, why not wait a little bit longer and see what develops in the e-bike world, and, a year from now allow class 1. But
and and you were at the town council meeting. We heard them. I listened when they said that, and I would have trouble pointing to any piece of evidence on any of our trails that says an e-bike, a class 1 e-bike, causes more damage than a regular mountain bike or dirt bike. I think our concerns were about safety when we talked about this, how long ago?
Yeah. Well, there's not enough of them out there right now to make that judgment.
That's enough. Gina, what do you?
Taking the fifth on this one.
I don't know, Tim. I think we have a plan.
I can go forward with the language, and then we can raise our opposition. And I would ask the rest of you to put some thought into into your reasoning and come up with some supporting language. And you never know. The other thing is it can be changed, and the elections happen early in the year every year, and a couple of seats can switch, and the voice of the council can go another way. You never know.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Tim.
Yes, thank you very much, Tim. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, for everything you've done on this project and for going there. So yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah. So the last thing to really cover then is this is going to go beyond my membership of the commission. I think it would be good if you could please take a vote to authorize me to continue to act on your behalf with this. So therefore we have it on the record.
I make a motion that Tim Tenhave, whether he is on the Merrimack Conservation Commission or off the Merrimack Conservation Commission, be allowed to continue to represent the Merrimack Conservation Commission on Chapter 11 proceedings.
Second.
Motion by Gina, seconded by Cindy. I don't imagine we need any more discussion on this.
Maybe just an amendment that he can't leave the commission. No. And now we can all vote, right? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Tim?
I go along with this, but I'm going to abstain officially because it's about me. So
understood. Mike Drew and
we lost Mike.
We're missing our Hollywood Squares.
Oh, there he is.
Mike, I just made a motion that, did you hear the motion?
No, my battery died, so I had to go charge it.
Okay. I just made a motion that Tim Tenhave, even if he's no longer on the Conservation Commission, can still represent the Concom for Chapter 11 proceedings, and Cindy seconded it.
All right.
It was Chapter 111, right?
Chapter 111.
Chapter 11. Do you vote yes or no or abstain, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries 5 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. Okay, other business. If no one objects, I think I'll do these out of order since we have the subcommittee on. We can start with the Wildcat Falls subcommittee, and then we'll talk about any other subcommittee updates after. Gina, you want to take us through this and
Well, yeah. First of all, do you need Andrew to state he's participating electronically from home and attendance in person is not reasonably practical due to COVID, and he's alone in the room he's in and he can hear the proceedings?
That would be fabulous, Gina.
Could you do that for us, Andrew?
Sure. My name is Andrew Duane. I'm here representing the Wildcat Falls subcommittee. I am at home participating because participation in person is not reasonable due to COVID. I am alone in the room and can adequately hear and see the proceeding.
Thank you. So Andrew has joined us. Even though the subcommittees are meeting, we had planned that Wildcat Falls subcommittee would meet with the Conservation Commission just to discuss a few things that are going on. Andrew's going to give us an update and we can discuss any concerns that we have with Wildcat. As we all know, last year, many people were running amok and we had lots of chaos happening at Wildcat. So let's check in with Andrew and see how things are going this year.
So far, so good, but peak summer has not really quite hit yet. So we're still concerned. One specific concern that's been brought up is that there's no parking allowed on the wetland side of the parking lot, which is the left-hand side. And previously, a no parking sign or two was put up there. They were taken down almost immediately. And we'd like to see if it's possible to put a fence up along there with no parking signs attached to the fence, which might be a more permanent solution. We do continue to have parking problems somewhat in the neighborhood, not nearly as bad as last year, but we're still trying to help on that.
Okay, just so you know, Andrew, I'm pretty sure I copied you guys, but I might not have. I did send an email to Lori from the Highway Division. She might even be on vacation this week because I think Mike also sent an email and neither one of us have heard. But yeah, I had just asked her for signs. So we can certainly discuss a fence. I'm not sure if that will be a problem because of the wetlands there. Or if people would just park alongside the fence. But yeah, it is a problem. People like to park over there.
And I don't know if any feedback has been received from the towns about the resident parking along Courier Road and I guess other abutting roads. Do we have a sense of how well that's working?
I haven't heard anything.
My one visit to the park was about 2 weeks ago, my recent visit, but we came in from the high school side, so I did not actually get to see the parking situation or the trail. And that was to work with the high school senior project committee. They are participating with the senior project. I think tomorrow, in fact, is the day. They're planting 100 lilac bushes and 50 small deciduous trees along the Wildcat Falls property. I was not able to reach the state to find out about planting on state land, so we're staying with the Wildcat Falls land. And I worked with them to identify a bunch of good spots for them to plant the shrubs. So hopefully we will have some more scenic plants in the coming years.
Okay, they know to be very, very careful with any turtles over there because we had talked about that. We're in turtle nesting season now.
Mm-hmm. And we stayed away from the areas that I've seen turtles in the past, which tends to be the bottom of the power line trail near the river. So they have no plans for planting anything along there. In fact, there are no plans for planting anything along the power line trail because Eversource likes to come and clear cut it every couple of years, and that would just take them down.
Okay. So the lilac bushes aren't going in around there.
No, we thought about it, but we saw that Eversource was just there a few weeks ago, and they clear cut exactly out to the 30-foot tree line. They cut everything down 6 inches off the ground. Wow. So nothing would survive.
Wow. Okay. That's a little bit more than I thought they were going to do. Okay.
I think it's just their new method now is to try to keep that clear. But we did find many, many opportunities for them to plant, and hopefully we'll get at least a decent uptake rate from them.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we did hear from someone from Eversource, and they were interested in planting a pollinator garden. Did you see that correspondence?
I did, but none of the plants that the Merrimack High School project had qualify as pollinators, but we can look into that if they would like.
Yeah, I think one of the things we discussed was whether or not the Merrimack High School group would be interested in getting together with Eversource to plant some of the pollinators maybe next year or maybe in the fall, if they were looking for a project in the fall, because by that time the turtles would be done.
Okay. I can't speak for the fall, but I know that the senior project day is usually just about this day in the early summer. It's about the last week or two of school, and it's a specified school day for the seniors.
Okay,
and they were in quite a number of projects.
Is Katie a senior?
Yes.
Okay, so she won't be here next year anyway.
Assuming not.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, if they continue to do this next year, then we can have some things for them. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's really all specifically we needed to talk about today. So if you can get back to us on the concept of signage and possible fencing alongside the parking lot, that would be our open action item.
Okay, I know Karen had also asked about the trash can, and I did ask Lori about that, but I don't think that will get put in. I think we pretty much decided that we're all carry in, carry outs at this point. It's just gonna get confusing if we put another one there. I know people are just leaving trash, but you know, we're just gonna have.
We'll have to take a look, and we may need to look at improving some signage at the kiosk. I honestly have not seen the kiosk since early last winter.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, Andrew, I'm sorry that we're running so late, and I do appreciate you joining us. Is there anything else you can think of?
That's it for us.
Okay, excellent.
Gina, I did have one quick question for you and Andrew. On the kiosk, a nice lady sent me an email. I think it sent it to all of us maybe, about the plexiglass bin on the kiosk being broken, the one that hung from the bottom right. And it was broken.
With maps?
What's that?
Where the maps are?
Yeah, it was empty. She said it was empty, but it was broken. Half was laying on the floor, and I went down Saturday and looked at it, and there was one piece remaining on the kiosk itself that had some jagged edges. So I took that off. I removed that with my screwdriver, but it is unrepairable.
Okay. So we need a new mailbox for that.
Yeah, we need a new one. I just figured I'd mention it, Andrew. It wasn't stolen. I in fact went down and removed it because it was broken beyond repair.
Okay.
I remember last year it was starting to become damaged. Maybe we should look at something out of a more natural material like wood.
Okay, Andrew, do you want to look for something, or do you want me to do that, or do you want to see if Karen wants to do that? How would you like to proceed with that?
I'll take a look, and I may enlist Karen to help. We do have more maps, but at the moment, as you say, they don't have a home.
All right. Can I make a motion right now so that we can spend some money to fix that? Will the council entertain, the commission entertain a motion to spend up to $50 or something? Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
It was reasonable to me.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to spend an amount not to exceed $50 for a replacement container to keep maps on for the Wildcat Falls kiosk, and that would come from Fund 53.
Okay. If I might make offer a suggestion, some of the parks I've been to elsewhere actually use mailboxes. They're very sturdy, they're very weatherproof, and people understand what they're for.
Okay, excellent. Well, I mean, we just called it a container, so if you can find a mailbox for under $50 that we can attach, then go for it. And I'll
discuss it with the subcommittee, see what their thoughts are.
I need a second on that.
Second.
Mike V.
Okay. By roll call vote, I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes. I think before we had talked about trying to come up with a standard one so that everybody used the same one. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody, or if anyone ever came up with one, but I just remember that, but I still vote yes.
All right, Mike Druin?
Yes.
Tim?
I vote yes as well. I think, the ones we use at Horse Hill are the ones that are usually on the side of inner city houses with a little flip lid on it. That's deep enough to allow a full map to slide into.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the same on BB Lane kiosk.
All right.
We'll do a little research.
Yeah, maybe if you head to a hardware store or something and just bring a stack of maps and just try them all, see what works best. Okay, and then once you get that, I'll just let Sharon know, and if you I mean, if you want to meet up with me and give me the invoice or give it to Sharon, she'll have a check sent out to you.
Okay.
Does that work? I can just give you the $50 if you want, and I can take the slip from you. You can let me know what you'd like to do.
No, I'll just, when I find something, I'll just get it and submit a receipt.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much, Andrew. Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right.
Thanks.
And we'll sign off now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, were there any other subcommittee updates that anyone wanted to share with us? We know Horse Hill's meeting. What time on Sunday are you meeting? Mike?
Oh, you meant Greater Woods? I mean, Sklar.
Sklar Waterfront Park?
I'm sorry, Scalar. I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Mike, I think it's 5 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, like you mentioned, I know Eric had said that Horse Hill is going to be meeting tomorrow night. I added it to the calendar. I think it's the Matthew Thornton room at 6:30. If I can find it.
Okay, you did send it out. All
Here
right.
it is. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock in the Matthew Thornton room.
Okay.
Horse Hill.
All right, we're moving on. Last item, presentation of the minutes from the, what was it, the May 17th meeting? Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Merrimack Conservation Commission meeting minutes dated May 17th, 2021 with changes as follows.
Second.
Motion by Gina, second by Cindy. Who would like to go first?
I read through them. I didn't have anything. I mean, the only thing I saw was when we talked about the councils, I'm like, oh, maybe we should put legal counsel in front of, to differentiate, but it probably wasn't said that way, but.
Is that why it said Merrimack Town Council twice?
Well, because we were talking about the legal counsel versus the town council as a body.
Right, that was confusing.
Yeah, so I don't know if we could put legal in front of the first, but that was the only thing I had.
I have a couple of things. On the first page, under also participating, we had Melissa Winters, EMT from the Merrimack Fire and Rescue. So her name would need to be added. On page 3, line 20, she will also be teaching. Leave No Trace is actually the name of something, so capitalize L, N, and T. Here's where my grammar gets me so messed up. On page 4, line 15, for the land, I believe it's affected, A-F-F-E-C-T-E-D. I saw what you saw too, Cindy, down there on also page 4, line 43 was town. I mean, council indicates that it's legal, but it is kind of confusing when you look at it.
So hold on a second.
Yeah.
Town council is spelled C-I-L.
Right.
Town attorney is S-E-L.
Right. And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about on page 4, line 43.
Right, but look, they're both spelled the same way.
And legal counsel in Amherst. They're talking about the Amherst legal counsel.
Okay, gotcha. Right. Yes, I'm sorry. I recall the conversation now. Yep.
Because then they also refer to, on another page, I don't even remember where it is, they talk about Merrimack Council and Council, so S-E-L and C-I-L.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Oh, yeah, it's on page 5, row 13.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on 43, it would be appropriate to add the word legal, town legal counsel. That makes great sense.
Okay.
And you could do the same where it is somewhere else as well. There's no reason not to. So
Just makes it easier to read. Wait, because your first time you read it and you go, wait, what? You know?
Yeah.
Good.
Anyone else? Well, thank you for going through that. Approved by roll call vote. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mike Druin?
Yes.
And Tim?
yes.
Okay, that motion carries 6-0. Public comment. There are no members of the public wishing to make comments at this time. Commissioner comments. Mike, anything?
I just want to say we should probably stay in touch with Jeff Littleton and Moosewood Ecological about the Greater Woods and the turtle tracking. Because I would like to know what happened with the Greater Woods results, as we all would, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Make a note. Talk to Jeff. Okay. Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Gina?
Sadly, I have two things because I know it's late. My first is I am waiting to hear back from Sarah Hardy, the Girl Scout who's putting up the selfie posts. She contacted us and wants to know, she has the actual poster in, and I kind of hesitate to even submit this after I just made a big stink about the e-bikes, but she wants to be able to bring the posts. She has someone that has an ATV. So she has these going in Greater Woods, Horse Hill, and Twin Bridge Park. We have no say over Twin Bridge Park. So, and that shouldn't be too far anyway. On Greater Woods, if she's coming in along Greater Road, it should be no problem because she can have motorized vehicles there. I don't know where she's going. She hasn't told me where in Greater Woods she's putting these. And then I don't know where she's putting them in Horse Hill, but we're no motorized vehicles in Horse Hill. So I guess my question is, do I say to her, only if you stay on on the yellow trails at Greater Woods and no way on Horse Hill? What do I tell her?
Is this for the walking sticks?
No, these are for the selfie stands.
Oh, the selfie stands, right. Yeah.
She is cognizant of, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we on Horse Hill have utilized motorized vehicles to support our trail upgrades and a few other things. So it would be nice to know where, so she has some guidance as to where she should be. She's going to need something that states that she's allowed to do that use because she may be challenged. I think you can make it work with Greater Woods. You can't do it from school property. So she was going to park at the middle school and try and go in. They don't allow that use, and that's not our say. We don't own the property. We only own the easement. Okay, so
how large are these things? If she's putting them by the decks, I mean, you can walk into the one by the school. It's very close, and the one, and this is Greater Woods, and the one by BB Lane by the cul-de-sac pond is it's even closer. I mean, you don't need it. I mean, right, where are these things going?
Well, that's what I need to find out. So I guess my question, first of all, is I'm waiting I asked her where they were going, and I haven't heard back from her yet. So once I find out, I guess my question is, what would be the will of the commission? Would you allow her to use, she's very cognizant about trail damage because she did say we'd be very, very careful not to, damage the trails. But, which means she can't go in if it's been raining at all, recently. So I guess that would be my question is once I know where she's going, if I let you know, can we discuss then? I mean, can you basically say yes or no through an email? Do you want her to wait until after the next meeting? It's complicated.
As long as we know where they're going. I mean, we have to know where they're going first.
Right. Okay. I mean, I know she kind of wants to get this done soon.
I think, personally, I think we could authorize Gina to allow or disallow based on what she understands the appropriate uses are on our properties. I don't, but I'm only one commissioner. If the rest of you would like to weigh in on it, then we would have to hold her off till we had a meeting.
I agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a consensus, Gina. If you're satisfied with the plan.
Okay, and then I can also ask, if we decide that it makes sense for her to take them, then what I can do is I can ask Sharon to have something typed up on town letterhead for her to carry to show anyone. That would make the best sense to me.
Yeah, you think you certainly should, and you can use this meeting minutes as the proof that the commission authorized it.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Letter on town. Okay, and the last thing is, I don't know if anyone noticed today, there was an email that came through by a woman named Jody Couture. And she was coming through and she was asking us if let me find the letter. I had it right here. I did have it right here. Anyway, she works for an organization, and what they do is they do an event thing. So they find a corporate sponsor and they have volunteers, and they look for organizations that have projects that need to be done. So in other words, we have a project that needs to be done. They get the money through a corporate sponsor. And I'm just trying to restore my session here because I got bounced out. So essentially, at first I was kind of like, yeah, no, we're good, because I wasn't sure what's the catch. But apparently there's not a lot of catch. The catch is there needs to be a bathroom at some point, and you need to provide water, and you need to distribute their t-shirts, which I'm assuming they provide their t-shirts. And we need to take pictures. But other than that, they will provide the volunteers so that they will do, originally it just looked like reforesting. I said, we don't need anything reforested. We have the high school's planting over 100 trees. She said they would also provide volunteers to do trail work or removing invasive species. I said, oh, I started thinking about all the burning bush that's blossoming. So I don't know now. Tim's shaking his head. No. So I don't know if this is something that we are interested in. Do we want to put this on? Because I had said to her, it's possible that they might have questions and would like for you to come to the meeting on June 21st. So would you like me to invite her to the next meeting and talk to her, or to the July meeting? They're talking about a September project. You can go back through, I can send out the email to everybody, and you can go back through and you can read all of my correspondence back and forth to her. And then we can, if you think she should go on the agenda, let me know. But I mean, I'm thinking as far as trail work, maybe they could do something at Sklar, clean up some of the trails down there as far as the ATV, the ATV damage. Maybe they could, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything to help us on the Grady Road bypass. I think that's too big a job. But you know, maybe we have some invasives that need to be handled, or.
Can we get a bridge built?
I'm not sure if they build bridges or not, but that's certainly something that we could talk to her about. She didn't say bridges. She specifically said the invasive species, trail work, and reforesting trees, planting trees. So those are the three things. So how about if I send out the email to everybody and you guys can take a look at it at your leisure, and and then you can just let me know if you want her on the agenda for next time or not. There, it's sent.
I'd like her to come, you know, talk about what she's doing, and after that we could come up with something if we want.
Yeah, I mean, understand this is a company, and they want us to market them. So, but in exchange, we get work done. So hopefully they make it worth our while. I mean, and one or more of us has to be on site while they're there. I think we have to make everybody sign a liability thing. So I'll read you exactly what we had, because I said, what's the catch? So they said they are on the ground the day. So we are on the ground the day of the event, guiding the partners and assisting with the work. We provide a brief introduction period and instruction period. We take good quality photos during the event. We ensure all volunteers sign a liability and photo release waiver. We distribute 1 tree planted t-shirts to all volunteers. We make sure all government guidelines surrounding COVID are implemented. We source all the materials for the day of the event. The costs are covered by the donors. We provide water to the volunteers and make sure an accessible washroom is provided. And the question I had was, the only place a washroom would be there is Wasserman, and they'd have to walk to it. So, and we provide information through a follow-up form, number of trees planted, number of volunteers, etc. So is it worth our while to do that?
Yeah, so this is a 501c non-profit, not-for-profit organization. So right. They collect donations, and then they do these projects throughout the world. If you click on their website, you can actually see Jody's picture if you'd like to know what she looks like, along with a bunch of other people. So this is, I imagine they're trying to raise awareness for their organization, which will allow them to collect more donations, which will allow them to further their mission. So
their mission to make donations, or is their mission to help people?
Well, you can go on their website and try and glean what that means. Okay.
So I'm guessing you're underwhelmed here.
Well, I from the 2-second look, it looks like that they're admirable and everything is great, and that the cause is great. I would not want to discount them at all. Okay. So I mean, it's worth, if they want to get involved and support. I don't see any damage in it. So
yeah, I mean, if we're going to get a lot of volunteers, that's great. If it's going to be 3 or 4 people coming out, then to me, that's not going to make enough of a dent in a day to make it worth our while to put this together. So I guess that's something that we can talk about, But I just wanted to get it out there. Usually when these things come in, I just let it go. She was very persistent. I will give you that. So there is a reason she's being persistent. So, I don't know how much of the donors' money goes where. So we can talk about it. I will go on the website, take a look, see if my spidey senses go off.
Thanks, Gina.
Okay.
Cindy, anything?
Nope, I don't have anything.
All right. Mike?
Yeah, so I put a hold on the hike club for a while. I got pretty busy. I'm going to schedule another hike in the next couple Saturdays. If anyone here is interested in coming along.
Okay. Well, thanks. How do you send that schedule out, Mike, when you plan to do it?
It's all on Facebook.
All on Facebook. Okay.
Oh, I just like just want to make people aware of one thing. It's an amazing mountain laurel year. I call it the laurel loop, but the circle the pond around between the two gates on Greater Road. And I think you can go through the woods there, and I mean the laurel, even places where it doesn't normally bloom, where the sunshine is sparse, I'm seeing flowers. So it's a great mountain laurel year. There's lots of it out there.
What property is that?
So Greater Woods has a ton of laurel, mountain laurel, and it's blooming right now. Like it'll peak probably like in the next day or so, or two.
So Wildcat Falls along the river has a great expanse, probably about 400 or 500 yards full of mountain laurel. If you want to see what it looks like, just take the trail that takes you along the river out towards the falls. You should be able to see it there, and also take the North Loop. There's a lot of it out on the North Loop as well. I haven't seen it in a few years because I haven't been out there, but if you say it's blooming, I'm sure it looks great.
Yeah, the more sunlight, the more blooms.
Mm-hmm.
And just thanks, Mike, for that. Just a word of caution: if you think we're gonna have 3 or 4 or more of us present for one of these, for one of the hike club events, we'll want to make sure we get it on the schedule in 2 minutes. Tim, anything?
Nope, all set. Thank you.
All right. Well, I also had no comments. Gina, are you holding up a phone?
Ooh, pretty. Oh, nice.
Oh, Mountain Laurel.
Wow.
Oh yeah, very impressive when it comes out.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Besides that, a lot of people mistake it for rhododendrons. So.
Someone like to make the last motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Cindy, second by Tim. I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gina?
Oh, you're on mute, Gina.
Gina?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a wonderful
And did you
night.
vote, Steve? Oh.
I voted yes. Did I forget?
Okay.
I may have forgot. Thank you for keeping me honest. Making me do the right thing when I'm trying not to. That motion carries 6-0. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning. I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.